So the first part of this process that I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the doors, the windshield, and this back window. So the back window's a little tall for me. I can't quite reach it, so I might have to get a ladder. Did anybody see that? That wasn't part of the plan. Literally, this whole roof is all fiberglass. I had to stop though. I didn't realize it was going to pull off like a sardine can. So I got to remove that visor quick. I don't want to ruin that. So before I make more attempts with my oversized can opener here, I figured I would spend a little bit of time. The headliner came out relatively easy, and I don't know if any of you Mack guys have ever attempted to get that fiberglass headliner out of this. It literally snaps in this top groove, so you have to use putty knives and some screwdrivers and some finessing to be able to unsnap all of that if you wanted to save it. Luckily for me, this cab isn't in that good a shape and it's not that tight, so it was able to come apart, and it actually just practically fell on me once I got the screws out. But I just want to take 5 seconds here. I cannot believe how bad, like, this is a piece that somebody had to put in because this top sill rotted through, kind of like this side. This side is junk. I've never seen an R model cab so bad before. You got somebody that snuck in a piece right here. Can't see it, but it'll be on the back side, and they bondoed over it. And then you have all that action. And then underneath the light, the center light is completely gone. I've never even seen this. This is blowing my mind how bad just the dash is rotted. Look at I couldn't even open up the ashtray. Look at the ashtray door. And then to top all of it off, if this isn't bad enough with the floors, the back window, I could probably push that right out. But to top it all off, I have never seen the window sill frame that you rest your arm on rotted through. This is a first for me. This cab is junk. Nothing beats a Mack truck just like that, good as new. Put the hat right back on, and you can haul another load with this truck. Obviously, the silicone above the windshield is holding the whole front from ripping right off. It's quite amusing to me how bad this truck really is. when I meant sardine can, I really meant that. Look at this. Rolled right up like nothing. So anyway, enough of the fun stuff. I'll take the doors off and whatever is salvageable on this cab. Windshields are junk. Might save the back window. Might save the steering wheel and the emblem. And then just the rest of it goes in the garbage. Nothing tougher than a Mack, even with the roof tore off it. Look at this. Door's still open and close. Still open and close. Uh-oh. Hang on. Got some carnage in the way. That's cheating. It's not fair. Hang on. Oh, gotta get the fiberglass out. Still closes. Almost like a brand new truck. It was so rusty that it fell off. Actually, I cut the bolts on the backside, but I wanted to save that oil bath air cleaner. I think somebody could use it one day. You guys are probably thinking, why on earth would you go through all that just to save some junk valves? I don't really care about the valves. I care about the fittings, because when you are broke down and it'll be a weekend where you have nobody and nobody to call, you better have parts. And everybody's got a junk drawer in their toolbox. Everybody's got a catch-all. I'm after the 1/8 inch fittings, the tricky 1/8 inch to 3/8 line, just something stupid that can go wrong. I've been there, which is why I am going to pick this cab apart to the best that I can. I'm not going to make a whole week out of it, but it's going to get a majority of it stripped out for pieces that I think that I would use. Got pretty nasty behind this dash here. I saved all the gauges. I'm mainly after the tach and the speedometer in that pile there, but I saved the ignition switch, cut the harness off the back so you can hook up or splice into anything you want. Anybody know how much an ignition switch costs lately? So if it has a key and it turns, maybe it's best you try to save it. It doesn't mean that it's good, but how do you know if you don't have one? Okay, now that we got the tetanus infested cab off of this chassis, I can finally see what I'm dealing with here. I took the seat out before I pulled the cab off, and I even noticed there's somebody put a brick on top of the tank to stop the seat from caving in through the floor. This is just more and more comical the more and more I keep making footage of this thing. So the frame is not salvageable. This was stretched once upon a time, which isn't a big deal. Oh, I forgot to mention, I got my handy Andy companion here because my camera crew went home for the day. So what we got going on here is we have spring hangers, the back, the front. Well, once upon a time, this spring hanger was here. So somebody stretched this out 2 feet. This was obviously a short little tractor. I'm assuming somewhere around here, maybe here, there's a splice somewhere in this frame. I just can't quite find where it is. And how I know there's a splice somewhere is because this is not a Mack cross member. No big deal, other than somebody literally built it into the frame. Like they fish plated this, there's a fish plate here, and then they decided to put this I-beam in there, and then these gussets, this is, it's bolted, yes, but it is also completely welded in this frame. Never mind, the cross members that have been altered also are bolted and welded. I guess that's pretty interesting. I'm not quite sure what somebody was doing with this truck to make it that rugged. I assume that the whole point of cross members is for stability and keeping the truck rugged, but I would imagine they want some type of flex, and you're literally welding everything together. So am I surprised that the frame is intact? No, but it wouldn't have surprised me if it cracked and broke in spots too. But regardless, my plan is to remove all these cross members because, oddly enough, this truck came from Georgia. Now, you would never know it because the cab was so bad, but this frame isn't terrible rust-wise. It's just a terrible... There's too much weld and just stuff on it. There's weld here, and then it is a little bit scaly on top of the frame, and it's a light-duty quarter rail. It's just not worth saving to me. So what I would do is I'm going to remove the springs, all the cross members, the fuel tanks I'm going to put on pallets, the air tanks I will save. So my plan, and I'm not sure how far I want to get into it, I may turn this into a frame cut. So what a frame cut entails is you cut it here, leave the transmission in it obviously because that's the rear motor mount, and I keep this whole front end, springs included. I will cut out the front axle and cut the drag link or remove the drag link, whichever, and leave the radiator in it, and that's what I consider a frame cut. So in case one day I wanted to hear this run, even though I can make it run outside of the frame, it's just as easy for me to take it apart, cut it up that way, and just leave it so I don't have to worry about the motor tipping over because it's still in the frame. I have all the battery cables still connected, and it will just be a frame cut. And then with the springs still being pinned in there, and you lay this down on the ground, it will not damage the oil pan when you just put it off out of the way, and it's going to be out of the way. I probably will remove the hood and the bumper. I also have to plug off the intake and exhaust. I don't want any bugs or bees nests or mouse house or whatever wants to just go to town in there to go to town in there. So that will be the next step, is to make this cobbed up truck, not a truck anymore. So my plan is to make it small, just to cut up the frame and make this so I can move it around or whatever. Check this out. Nice little early Mack hub here from late 60s, early 70s. But anybody ever seen this? How do you check the oil? I mean, sure, you could fill it here, but did somebody really take this apart because they broke the glass and they didn't put the center cap? They didn't just change this. They literally took this apart and put a piece of plexiglass in there and put it all together. No way to tell at this point because it's so painted over and so fogged over. You can't even tell how much oil or grease is in it. Never mind, there's no lines on it like a factory hub would have. Somebody was pretty tricky. So I started cutting all of the bolts to save all of the cross members. I cut the bolts on the spring brackets, so this side is almost ready to be removed. These marks are where I want to cut it. I'm going to make it into short steel. It's not a lot of weight, but I'm right here with the torch and I might as well do it. And I'm trying to save this because in my fabricator mind, especially one that doesn't like throwing anything out, that's a pretty well built cross member as well, even though it's completely welded to the inside of the frame. So I'm going to cut here and knock that out too. So at the end of the job here, it was going to be short steel anyway. Got to cut the drive shaft, that'll be short, and throw what I don't want away. So I just have to cut the other side right now and start knocking out some bolts and make sure I don't put my steel toe boots to the test. Anybody ever play the game Pickup Sticks when they were younger? Well, this is just about the same thing. Fuel tanks go on pallets. I'll drain the fuel out of them, and then all the frame rail goes in the short steel, and then all the cross members and the springs will probably go on their own pallet also. And I'll clean this mess up and on to the next one. So I still got to cut the front axle out of this. I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet, whether I'm going to leave it this way because it's easy storage and the motor is covered, or remove the hood, front axle, and have a frame cut, and then I have to worry about covering it. But that's for another day. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope everybody's not mad at me for having to cut up a Mack. I did not want to do it, but there just was nothing left of it other than it runs. And you got a junk 5-speed that really nobody in today's age knows how to drive. So like and subscribe and check out my other videos, and I will see you at the next one.